Today on the Extreme Channel, we're going to talk about a Gambit. No, not this type of Gambit, but we're talking about an X-Man. No, not this X-Man. We're talking about a superhero. No, not this kind of hero. Remy LeBeau is what we're about today. Hey guys, this is the Extreme Channel. For you new people, my name is Mr. X, and we have another high-end collectible, and if you think I'm talking fast, that's because I am so excited to have this piece in the collection. There's multiple reasons I'm so excited. As you guys may know, I'm a huge X-Men fan, and this is going to my X-Men wall. It is the first Gambit I actually have in my collection. And when this is all said and done, if you want to see what he looks like in my collection, go ahead and check out the Extreme Channel Facebook page. Well, make sure you not only follow that channel, but like it to see cool updates I don't put on YouTube. Second reason I'm so excited is it feels like I purchased this guy over a year ago. I PO'd him, I went through Anton Wu on Facebook, who was fantastic. And after I PO'd him, as you saw in the thumbnail, Sideshow revealed one of their most anticipated pieces ever. They also revealed a Gambit. And like many people, I was having buyer's regret. Maybe I shouldn't have gone with XM. And if you don't want to watch the rest of the review, in short, hell yeah, I did. So before we dive into an extreme review with this piece, check out this statue giveaway. We are going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these two PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. So Gambit, being a classic member of the X-Men, he's kind of a must-have if you collect X-Men pieces. So Gambit's real name is Remy LeBeau. He is the love interest of Rogue in the traditional comics. And he only made one brief on-screen appearance, and it was actually in a Wolverine movie. And I quite like the character. I wish they would bring him back. Hopefully they do in the new MCU. Now Gambit is kind of a badass. He's a gambler. He's from New Orleans, I believe. At least he has that New Orleans accent. Like I say that, New Orleans. And his mutation, or superpower, is he can manipulate telekinetic energy. And traditionally, he does it with cards. So he can turn anything into kind of a microplasma bomb, if you will, best way to describe it. And then he throws it at his enemies and they explode, hence the cards. He's also great at hand-to-hand combat, and his particular weapon of choice is the bow. I do have another custom Gambit on order, and I did originally order Sideshows as well, but I thought 3 is too many, and when Gambit was delayed back in May from Sideshow, I thought here's my chance to get my non-refundable deposit back and roll the dice just like Gambit would and hope that XM Studios delivers. So let's find out if they did. Starting with concept of this piece. Now with Gambit, you want to make sure that you're showing his powers, you're showing his persona, and I think they did that excellent. Let's take a look. So first of all, on the bottom, it is a Sentinel base in rocks, which is traditional with X-Men. What I really like about this piece, it's more of a design thing we'll talk about. There's not a big footprint, but it goes really well with all of my other Sentinel X-Men pieces, where the Sideshow was in the Danger Room, which I do have a few of the pieces in that line as well. Moving up right here above that, he is in an action dynamic pose, even though he is straight vertical up and down, which is traditionally a museum pose. He's on one leg, so he's in the middle of a jump. And originally, when I saw some of these pictures, I thought he looked like he was dancing. But now that I have him in person, I don't see that. He definitely looks like he's in the midst of a battle. He's in the middle of an action, where right now he's actually using his telekinetic, and I'm probably saying that wrong. It's kinetic energy to actually throw those cards towards his enemy. He's got his bow in his left hand. He's in the middle of a battle. And at least on this portrait, his expression is totally Gambit. It's totally badass. It's totally, you want to mess with me, Sherry? I probably said that with a horrible accent. But I love what they did. His coat flowing in the wind in the middle of a battle, just beat a Sentinel down below. Excellent concept. I think it captures the superpowers of Gambit. I think it captures his attitude. Obviously, the little bit of a Sentinel piece on the bottom is a big tribute to X-Men. And they have his traditional garb on. It's fantastic. I really dig the concept on this. And now that I have it in person, I think I'm liking it better than Sideshows. And I have seen Sideshows in person. I think the concept to capture Gambit on this, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 or an X. I think it's done fantastically. It's exactly what I want. Now design, I'm actually even more excited because I think they did things even better than the concept, not to give a spoiler on the score. But first, let's look at the unboxing. Box was a lot smaller. You'll find out shipping wasn't that much at all, which is nice. Traditional XM Studios box, no art box or anything, at least I didn't take it out. styrofoam with the straps, as they always do. And there were 2 layers. The first layer had most of the accessories and parts of the Sentinel, where the bottom layer was Gambit, the base, and everything else. Here's part of the pieces laid out on the table. And then on the other side, the rest of the pieces. Very small base, as you can see, which actually I quite like, and we'll talk more about that. Within the base itself, there was about 5 or 6 pieces of the Sentinel you actually put in, whether it was a magnet or a key and peg together. So very easy assembly because all of the keys had different shapes. And if you see my mouth moving, it's because I was actually talking to Mrs. X while this is going on. I wasn't talking to myself, which is something I normally do. And here I could see where the magnet of that wire goes, but it looks like that I actually had to input Gambit first. So also I changed the switch out on the left side there. You can see them with the switch outs, which we'll take a closer look at. And XM Studios does now do assembly videos. I just don't choose to watch those. I never like to look at work in progress or other YouTube reviews or anything regarding a piece before I put it on the review table, so I can make sure that the thoughts are original. Plus, it's fun to kind of gamble that you might actually break something on a brand new statue you just paid $1,000 for. Now, it was surprising that Gambit was separate. His torso was separate from his body. You don't traditionally see that, but I suspect that was for engineering purposes when they cut the statue, so shipping would be easier with that leather, sculpted leather jacket and how it flows like that. So he does have a belt, and there's actually 2 different belts. We'll talk about that. Very strong magnets in the head. It kind of jumps out of my hand, actually. And then the kinetic effect actually keys into his back through the belt, which we'll talk more about. Also with that, XM has their traditional black folder, where in the past it used to be the instruction book and an art print, where here we still have an awesome art print. It's typically in the same pose of the statue. Here's a picture of that. And lately what they've been doing is they have a card that shows where every piece goes in the original styrofoam, which is always nice if you repack it. And then the other side is just a link to the assembly video and certain things on how to register the product. Also what XM Studios has been doing lately is a little COA, if you will, kind of a metal card to go next to it. Very fancy. Now, if they're charging me more for this, I don't want it, but it's still neat to get. So here's a picture of that right here. Do have some different display options, as I indicated. So first, let's look at the portrait I intend to display. Short-haired portrait right here. And we'll go over these in detail with paint and sculpt. And then here is the more long-haired portrait with a little bit different expression. Now with his right arm, you can have him kind of bent at the elbow and him holding a card. Again, not the way I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the kinetic effect around the cards right here. And a really interesting design piece that they did for this. They actually included 2 of the belts, as I talked about during the assembly. Now the belt that the cards actually key into, here's a picture of it. You see there's a hole right here. But if you're displaying the other one, the belt is complete right here. Very, very simple but smart thing. Now the other thing I really like about the design is the size. It doesn't take up a lot of footprint for a 1/4 scale statue. So right here, the width, not including Gambit, but the base is maybe 8.5 inches, maybe, depending which way you look at it. How deep it is maybe 10 inches or so, a little over. And then the total height on him up to his finger is right over 25 inches. So I have a lot of different choices of where I can display him. I think that's fantastic. We got a Sentinel piece, and I know they're doing this with their Iceman and a few of the others. You can't really see if it was a hand. It's just pieces of it below, and we'll look at that again with Paint and Sculpt. So I love the effect. There was a lot of controversy when pictures were first released of the cards, that it's not looking like he's really throwing them. I think it does. I think it looks like he pulled them out of his back pocket and he threw them like he does in the comics and even in the cartoons. So I think it's done really well. I don't know what all the controversy was. So I think the design was done fantastic. I do worry about leaning issues. The peg and key were pretty good on the foot, but who knows what's going to happen 3 years from now. XM Studios can't even know that. I love the fact they went fully sculpted, no mixed media on this piece. So he looks awesome. His bow, well, I don't know if it's metal. It looks like metal. From the weight, I'm not really sure. But one really interesting thing I found about the design, and this is probably just for engineering cuts, on his other hand right here, the hand is a separate piece. So I was looking for another switch-out hand in the box. Actually, Mrs. X helped me unbox it. See, she's starting to drink the Kool-Aid. And I asked her, I was like, did you find another one in there? And there wasn't. So this is just for shipping purposes or painting purposes, but it allows the glove to be fully painted. It's interesting that those are two separate pieces. Now, I don't intend to display it with the other switch outs, so those will actually go back in the box for me. But even with just these options, I think the design is awesome. I actually give it a 5 out of 5 on the design. I'm really excited about this piece.
Hey, that's what she said.
Now, we're going to do a video close-up of the Paint and Sculpt, and just kind of a spoiler, the trend of what we're seeing continues. They did an incredible job with the rocks on the base. They look like real rocks. I love the texture that they put in them, and the paint just complements it. There are a few areas where it might be a little bit too shiny if you have bright lights on it, but otherwise it looks really good. I like the dirt, the rubble, maybe some more black scarring on it because you assume this is kind of the futuristic aspect because the Sentinels are there. And I think that's one of the things missing on some of the Sentinel. It looks a little bit too clean despite the battle damage. And as I said, you really can't tell what parts of the Sentinel this is, but I think that's good to be ambiguous. Look at those big words from Mr. X. There are some scratches in there. They could have been done a little bit better. But I love like the cables here that are broken apart, the sculpt and the texture on them. And then even these boosters on the back, there's some almost like copper scarring on the inside. So you can definitely tell this is part of a battle. Really, really cool. Now with Remy, so his boots here, these metallic boots, look very cool. Again, some battle damage in there, as there would be. That's really the only battle damage you actually see on Gambit anywhere. But I like how there's a little bit of purple, a different color of purple in there. Maybe it's blue. You can see it under different lighting. His anatomy is fantastic, very fit, muscular thighs. You're gonna see that in his torso as well. He's got, I think that's a 10-pack almost, just like me. Mine looks more like a keg, but I love the different pattern on his outfit here, how this purple is outdented, not indented. And again, there's some great black shading on there. And then you see the folds and the seams in his pants. Look really good. I love that texture on the middle of his torso right here. This honeycomb pattern really makes it pop. And then this blue metallic armor collar, again, it's got some battle damage on it. So he's not just dressing up for the nines, but he actually is making sure he's ready to battle. Then his coat is fantastic. They did a great job with this sculpt, like the interior of the coat kind of worn right there. And I like how it's a lighter brown. And tons of black shadowing all over this with a few X-Men symbols. The flow of this. You know, like when Sideshow did their Rogue that I used to own is, they did a great job with the mixed media jacket, but I prefer this, especially with the flow of it. It gives the statue kind of this dynamic aspect to it. You do see a little bit of seam lines on the arms there, I guess, which I missed during design, but that's expected in a leather jacket. And I think this one is permanently attached, actually, this arm, if I remember correctly. So it still looks all right. Look at his bow here, try and focus on this. So I don't think it's made of metal because of the weight, but it looks like it is, which is very cleverly done. So I give them a lot of props, and I definitely would want to display them with it. So here is the kinetic effect. Under the light, it looks a lot better. With these bright spotlights shining on it, it almost looks like it's moving, it's alive. I would have liked this a little bit more transparent, I think, but it still looks good. One thing you see on the cards here is you see actually a little bit of the purple effect, or that pink effect, which I like. That's a nice touch. Some crazy stuff over here. Look at his gloves. So these black, tight spandex gloves. But look at his fingers. You can see dirt in his fingers. It's like cool little details like that in the paint are what really takes it to the next level. You know, he's been out here fighting sentinels. So let's move into my favorite portrait. Now, I like that they gave him the red eyes because he's using his full power. And this is kind of that attitude, that smirk that shows, you know, hey, I'm Gambit. I like the flow of his hair. I think they could have differentiated the strands a little bit more. His headband looks great. A little bit of stubble that's painted and sculpted in there. I think one disadvantage, you don't really, well, you still see his face pretty good. And then here is the other portrait. So I'm not a fan of the expression on this, but mostly it's the long hair. And I know Gambit's had that before. I just don't dig that. But the expression I don't dig either. Otherwise things are very similar. Same skin tones, which look good, go well with the statue. So for me, definitely going back in the box. But just phenomenal job on both the paint and sculpt on this. I mean, the execution overall on this piece is extremely impressive. This is just killer. You know, the only thing I would criticize is the kinetic energy right here, but I don't know how to make it better. Maybe they should have done a little bit more transparent. I'm not sure, but otherwise the sculpt on Gambit is fantastic. Maybe a little bit more texture on the sentinel parts, but I love the rest of the base. The portrait I think is fantastic. A little bit of opportunity in the hair, but I think it's close enough to give it a 5 out of 5 on the sculpt of this piece. Really well done by XM Studios, at least in my opinion. Paint as well. I'm trying, you know, the little details like the dirt in his fingers, the pink hue on the cards, just the paint is so solid and so clean. Maybe some more black scarring around the battle damage, like I said, but that's about it. So I think the paint's also a 5 out of 5. Now let's get to value on this piece. So they made 800 of these. They originally retailed for $12.99 Singapore dollars, which is approximately $1,000 US dollars. And then you have to pay for shipping if you live in the States. Shipping was about $200 US, which is great during COVID times. Anton got it to me in like 3 days. So thank you, Anton. So $1,200 all in. Sideshows, which looks phenomenal. When I saw it, I was like, this is one of the best Sideshow pieces I've ever seen. Is I think $680, $700 in that range, plus shipping and taxes. So the value is not perfect. I definitely not giving the value a 5 out of 5. I wish that the edition size was much lower, as it has been with XM Studios lately. Lately, we've been seeing it lower than 500. This is going to be over 800, or it's 800 exactly, I'm sorry. And with that being said, I think Sideshow's ES was 6,000 on their Gambit, which is also going to be a fantastic Gambit. So I don't know if you could ever get your money back on this piece. You probably could right now before Sideshows is released. But I think the value at best is a 3 out of 5. Unfortunately, it's just priced extremely high. I do understand you get what you pay for, but this is a 1/4 scale piece that's not entirely elaborate, and it's still $1,200 retail. So does this piece have the X factor? It's not a cumulative score, but even if it was, which if we added all those up, it would be an X. I say this is an X. I don't know if my boy Adam's watching, huge Gambit fan. I don't know if you got this one or not, Adam, but it is fantastic. Definitely the Gambit to have if you're a huge X-Men fan. Sideshow, I'm going to be impressed if they equal this. So I'm definitely happy with my decision. I think it was fantastically done. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised on this. XM Studios is usually top quality, and they delivered. They knocked it out of the park. So well done, XM Studios. Let me know in the comments if you expect Sideshow to beat this or not. So just put Sideshow Gambit. And of course, we're speculating. Like I said, some of us have seen Sideshow's Gambit in person, but it was behind a display case. But very, very happy with this. No regrets at all. And the reason I want you to comment is it'll actually help you win that statue. To win one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these two pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Got some really exciting videos coming at you guys, so make sure to hit that Mr. X logo, 50% of you haven't, and then hit that bell notification or check out some of these other statues from XM Studios in the meantime. Otherwise, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.